Welcome back to MidPoint, the director of JihadWatch.org and the author of several books, including The Truth About Muhammad and The Politically Incorrect Guide to Islam and the Crusades, Robert Spencer. Robert, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on.
That comment was made by Hilary Mann Leverett, Senior Adjunct Professional Lecturer at AU's School of International Service, who, according to the reports, is well known for her 25 years of practical experience in U.S. foreign policy. How'd she do this time?
Well, of course, everything she said was false, starting with the very first thing that she said, that there was an emigration of Jews from Muslim lands after the creation of the State of Israel. Actually, they were forcibly expelled, they were exiled, they were often brutalized on their way out. And Jewish communities that had existed for hundreds of years were leveled, and the Jews who had lived there were treated abominably. And so to gloss over that as an emigration, in the first place, signals that Hilary Mann Leverett, like so many other academics and so many other policymakers, is intent upon whitewashing the unfortunate and bloody history of Islamic anti-Semitism and the grim reality of Islamic jihad in general.
What is the end game for that whitewashing?
Well, it seems as if these people have bought into the idea, which is, of course, energetically spread by groups like the Hamas-linked Council on American Islamic Relations and others, that any honest discussion of how Islamic law oppresses people or how people have been victimized, brutalized, even killed by people who believe that they are acting in accord with the Quran and with the teachings of Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, would be bigoted, would be hateful, would be racist. And thus it cannot and must not be done under any circumstances. The idea really boils down to this, that if you're Western, white, and Christian, you're bad. If you are brown, non-white, non-Western, and Muslim, then you are good. And that is the paradigm that so many academics follow, that so many media people follow, no matter what the facts.
All right, now I'm going to go ahead and show a graphic here to our audience, and then I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment. Here's percent of the adult population that hold anti-Semitic views. This is according to the Anti-Defamation League. In the West Bank and Gaza, 93%, 92% in Iraq, 88 Yemen, 87 Algeria. It goes from there Libya, Tunisia, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan at 81%. Looking at all this then, Anti-Defamation League does this. Again, devil's advocate. People out there, such as this person, who will say, wait a minute, they're overstating things. It's not that bad. They're simply looking to push their own agenda forward here by forcing everyone to believe there's anti-Semitism here. Okay, now to you then on those who say that, and you know that there are people out there saying it right now.
Well, of course, yes, there are, and people will say it's because of the alleged crimes of the State of Israel. Various other explanations have been floated. Ultimately, however, it boils down to the theological. In Islam, in the Quran, it says in chapter 5, verse 82, that the worst enemies of the Muslims will be the Jews, and that the Jews always try to thwart the Muslims, that the Jews oppose the Muslims, that they are enemies of Allah, they are under the curse of Allah, and shame, humiliation, and disgrace must be imposed upon them whenever possible. These things are all Quranic statements, and there are many others that are virulently, viciously anti-Semitic. Far beyond anything that was ever taken by Christian anti-Semites to justify their views. Meanwhile, while Christian anti-Semitism has been repudiated by all the churches, Islamic anti-Semitism has never been rejected by any authoritative Muslim body. And so these things are taught in the mosques. This is how the prism through which Muslims in the countries that you mentioned view the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and Jews in general. And so it's no wonder that anti-Semitism is at such high levels in those countries.
Robert, why then, when we're talking about this issue, the host of a program, and in this case where we saw Hilary Mann Leverett's comments, it was Melissa Harris Perry on MSNBC, why then do you think that people who are charged with at least asking questions and at least trying to uncover the truth of an issue do not simply challenge these assertions when they're made?
Well, I doubt Melissa Harris Perry has ever opened the Quran or has any idea of the viciously anti-Semitic material that's in it. And here again, that paradigm always kicks in. It's always the rule that Muslims are always the victims on a network like MSNBC, Whenever they do something like an Islamic Jihad terror attack or all the anti-Semitic attacks that we've been seeing around the world with increasing ferocity over the last few weeks, then it's always the victim's fault or the fault of the West in some way. It's never the responsibility of the perpetrators. This is what is taught by academics like Hilary Mann Leverett. This is what people like Melissa Harris Perry believe, and it's how they see the world. And so everything that happens, they interpret through these crazy lenses.
In your opinion, then, are people such as these either anti-Semites or just stunningly ill-informed?
Yeah, I would say that somebody like Hilary Mann Leverett and Melissa Harris Perry, it's not that they're anti-Semitic, but they are, in the truest sense of the term, useful idiots, being made use of, that is, by people with a quite insidious and ultimately violent and supremacist agenda.
A very simple question people would love to know the answer to right now, 20 seconds. Is there any way for the two sides to get along in the Gaza Strip and in Israel? Any way possible to at least bring some peace here?
If the Israelis have overwhelming strength, then according to Islamic law, Islamic jihadis are not to fight. They are not to fight in a cause that is absolutely impossible to win. And so that is the way that they can coexist. Otherwise, as long as there are people who believe that the jihad imperative must destroy Israel, and that's what they believe over in Hamas and Islamic Jihad and the other groups, then the conflict will continue.
Robert Spencer, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. You absolutely always speak your mind, and we appreciate that. Thank you again.
Always a pleasure for me too, Ed. Thank you.
All right, take care. After the break, On Point. Not to be missed for a proper beginning of the weekend, because, oh yeah, that's right, the weekend is just about to begin. Right after we finish up here on MidPoint, where we question everything.